All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. Today, we're going to be talking about anger and how to help kids cope. This is by me, prevention educator Ruth Del Pino, on the Mercer Council, and I am part of the Mercer Council on Alcoholism and Drug Addiction. We are a nonprofit, and we do a variety of things, but our website really does tell all. So if you want to learn more about us, you can go to mercercouncil.org/news to see any updates on our programming. So thank you very much for being here. I really do appreciate it. So I do sort of want to talk about where I'm coming from, because a lot of people look at me and they're like, oh, you seem very young for someone to be teaching parenting classes, or not parenting classes, parenting information. And here's what I'm going to say. So I was originally the Trenton Municipal Alliance Coordinator. I have since transitioned into the Program Coordinator for the Mercer County Grant. I am a prevention educator. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Global Studies, Political Science, and American Studies with a certificate in leadership from Rowdy University. I am certified to teach life skills training, and I have a teaching English as a foreign language certificate as well. So I have two girls I am helping raise. They are pre-adolescent and middle school age, and they definitely keep me on my toes, and they teach a lot of different things to me about what I can do and what I can't do. So that is that. Why this presentation? This is not to scare you. This is to inform you. This is also not a parenting class. You are the best parent for your child. You know them best. This is my perspective, and my perspective shapes my approach in my learning experience. So any sort of thing that I am putting out there comes from a place that I have already vetted through, that I know teachers have vetted through, that I know parents have vetted through, and hopefully I can present information that is readily available to you. This is also evidence-formed and some evidence-based. So evidence-informed meaning I do research, I put it in the presentation, you take what you want from it, and then you utilize it in any way that you see fit. This is also some evidence-based, meaning that I will share some things that I learned from life skills training as well. So here's the presentation, and we are here to get started. So why can children be angry? First, we're going to start with this. There are a bunch of reasons. A bad day at school, online drama with friends and bullies, being bullied. We know that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Discord, Fortnite, all these places really do give way for a lot of children to be exposed to a lot of different avenues of people. And while they interact with people, this can also mean that they have online drama with those people. It just inherently happens, especially nowadays, because people are online much more because they can't leave their homes as often. So that is that. They may witness yelling and anger as part of a coping skill in their family or around them in some way. So living by example is truly important when you're looking at children, especially teachers who are around children a lot. I see them really saying that being an example for their students is truly important, and not yelling when the class gets rowdy, coming up with different methods to quiet them down, things like that really does help. Friendship problems ranging from a whole bunch of things, serious, not so serious, depending on the level. Puberty and hormone changes. So puberty and hormones are a thing, and they do happen constantly to children. When they start growing, they really don't stop. There's no pause button on that. So when they're going through it, we really need to understand that they're going to change, and there's nothing we can do about that, but we can help them figure out how to change and really utilize those resources that they're going to receive. They may be feeling stressed about something. Feeling stressed about something really does mean a lot of different things. But stress comes from school, it comes from home, it comes from family, it comes from maybe their own brains, and they're just stressed because they don't know how to interpret a situation. There could be a lot of different things. And also the pandemic. The pandemic is a huge part of it, right? The pandemic has been happening for a while now, almost a year. And they may have thought that this was a very short-term thing, and it turned into a long-term thing. And they may feel frustrated that they are still stuck at home and still not learning the way that they want to. They're still not interacting with their friends the way that they want to. There are a lot of different aspects to this, right? So there's that. And we are moving on to giving them tools to identify anger. Now, there are a lot of different tools, and we are giving them tools for a variety of reasons, but the best way to prevent an unreasonable explosion is to give them language they can use to effectively communicate what they are feeling. Meaning they are using vocabulary such as devastated, explosive, bored, annoyed, exasperated, resentment, rage, fury. Sometimes they feel feeling looked down upon. They feel like they're being looked over. They may be sad. And when they say, I don't know, challenge them a little bit. Dig a little deeper. Ask them, what happened at school? Did something happen when we were apart? When we're not together, what goes on, you know? And then you can also give them actions that they can use, actions that they can, pursue in order to effectively express their anger. So why is anger so easy to feel? There are a lot of different reasons, but we do try to address this in life skills. Anger is easy. It is much easier for our brain to process because it means that you don't have to process trauma and grief the same way. Anger is a secondary emotion, meaning that it's something that you feel after you feel a primary emotion. Primary emotions are happy, sad, elated, things like that, that give us a very visceral reaction. And anger can be very visceral. It can be something from within, but it's never something you feel first. You may feel sad and then switch to anger very quickly. You may feel upset and then switch to anger, but you're never at anger first. You always arrive there. It's never something that is within. And anger is really easy because it inherently gives you the right to play the victim or be the victim or someone who has been wronged in some way. This emotion automatically gives you that right. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because when you are also processing trauma, you may be angry that people treated you the wrong way. You may be upset that people didn't respect your boundaries. Those are things that give you the right to be upset. When you are someone who feels anger, you can also feel a lot of different things. And that anger can be used for a lot of different avenues, right? So it can be a very good tool to use if you need to stand up for yourself or other people. If you need to say something you don't have the courage to say otherwise. Anger can inspire you to do community service because you're angry people don't have enough to eat. There are different things that anger can use, and if it's used correctly, it can be very effective. It can be channeled in the right way, and anger gives you the right to do something, anything, whatever that is. So understanding where the anger is coming from first can really help them, and that is a tool to identify where their anger is coming from. Okay. Now, I always suggest having a coping toolkit. So a coping toolkit means that it is a list of strategies and activities that children can use in order to help them figure out what works best for them in a given situation, depending on their level of anger. Now, life skills, I will be talking about that later in the presentation, but I do suggest having pillows, soft things to hit and throw. When you throw pillows around the room, that's okay. It may knock some things over, but it's not hurting anyone. When you are screaming or punching a pillow, then that's okay too, because you're getting anger out on something that isn't inherently hurting another person or hurting yourself. And that's the goal, right? That's something that's really important, to express your anger in a way where you can channel it in different ways. Now, I also suggest stress balls. These are anything that can stimulate their physical anger. So if they're constantly squeezing something, it really does help alleviate their heart rate, right? So I also have an anger diary journal entries to look at while they're not in the moment. So when they go through the moment and understand what happened and write down what happened, then it can help them understand their anger in the long run. I don't suggest this when they're feeling very angry, because they may not say the things that are very introspective. They may not say things that are very helpful to them in their development. So always encourage them to do after an angry episode or after they are upset with something. Breathing techniques. Breathing techniques range from a lot of different things, and I will be talking about that later on when I'm talking about life skills. Safe spaces to scream. Safe spaces meaning they have adults or parents who understand that they are going to be screaming in their room for a little while, and that's okay, because sometimes you just need to scream. Sometimes you just need to get it out, and that's really part of it, right? And if they're not hurting anything, if they're not causing destruction to property, these are all parts that really do make sense. Meditation is also another good one. Meditation is just mindful breathing. It's just figuring out what emotions you have and then channeling them in ways that you don't normally channel them, and sitting with your feelings and then letting them pass. And I have a couple of channels, YouTube channels, that I'm going to introduce for meditation, and they really do effectively help me and a lot of people I know who have children to learn how to do mindful breathing. Another thing is having a person to talk to. Sometimes when you're angry, you don't want to talk to your parents. You don't want to talk to an authoritative figure, and that's okay. You may want to talk to a friend who can, just vent out their anger, and that's it. Be careful with that though, because sometimes friends add to the anger instead of take away. So it depends on the friend. But they can also talk to a trained professional. They can talk to their parents, talk to you. There are all different types of ways that, there are a lot of people that children can talk to, but understanding what kind of person they need to talk to is important. If they are just looking to vent, talk to a friend. If they are looking to reason, maybe talk to an authoritative figure. So there are different aspects to that too. Also, things with their hands. I know that a lot of times when people are physically angry, they use their hands a lot. They fist up their hands. And so anything that can sort of give them like fidgetiness or, fidget toys, fidget spinners are a good one. Anything to get their nervousness out or their negative feelings, that was really important. I didn't put this on there because I thought it was just, kind of obvious, but some people really like punching bags. Punching bags can be a very effective way of people getting out their anger, and it can be healthy because they're exercising, they're breathing, they're just getting something physically out so they don't have to worry about it. There are a lot of different ways to do that. Now, I do have coping skills, which are the coping skills that can be in the coping toolkit. Now, I have a couple of websites I use, which is Very Well Family. I also have ways to teach children for anger management. All of these things are ways to teach your child anger management skills. This is also something that medical doctors write into. They are verified child psychologists. These are all things that are important. It's a great read to know what to do and to know what is important for you and important for your child. So I highly suggest verywellfamily.com, and they have a lot of lists of things that can help you in a lot of different ways, but they have resources that you can utilize for that reason. So I am talking about keeping an anger journal, which is really important. An anger journal means that they have reasons to keep anger in and reasons to let anger out. And they have a lot of different ways they express that and do that. When they are writing in their journal, we tell them to give the situation, the date, the people involved, why I was angry, what I felt, what I said or did. Now, it doesn't really talk about the people involved very much, because when you're angry, sometimes it just comes from a place of not feeling control in the situation, not really knowing what to do. And when you're angry, you really need to get control of who you are, what you're doing, and your own emotions, because you can't control anybody else anyway. But it does help to understand who the people were involved for them to know that maybe they should avoid confrontation with that person next time, or maybe they should have a couple of different options for them to talk to someone else. Breathing exercises are a really good one. I have a couple of breathing exercises here that I will put on now. This is actually from Cosmic Kids Yoga. And I will say they talk about a lot of things that are meant for children, but it's also meant for something that that children can use, but adults can use as well. There are still applicable situations where they talk about, and they introduce a lot of concepts and emotional situations that they can sort of sift through and understand what that actually means. So I have here Cosmic Kids Yoga.
Cosmic Kids Zen Den, our place for helping our minds be healthy, strong, and happy. Sit yourself comfortably and take a big, deep breath. Clear your mind, let your body settle, and enjoy the space you have right now to tap into yourself. As you come to the Zen Den more and more, you are mastering the most important thing to learn: understanding yourself and how to be happy and enjoy your life. Now, I wonder if you can think of a time when you've had to perform in some way. Maybe you've had to speak act or sing or dance in front of other people. Or you've had to play a big sports game at school. Or you've had to take an important test. You know it's coming up, the days are ticking by, and soon you have to do it. This can feel exciting, but also a little bit frightening. This is what it means to feel nervous. Perhaps you are worried about being looked at, or whether what you do will be good enough. Perhaps you worry about what everyone watching will think about you when you do it. Close your eyes if you like, and try to remember a time like this when you've had to do something. It might have been a time when you had to stand up in front of your friends in class, or maybe in front of all the kids and teachers in school. Can you think of one? It's funny, even when you think about it now, even though it's past, it's still normal to feel a little nervous. Nervous feelings are natural when we have to perform. We are doing something that is challenging and important for us, something that will help us learn and become better, stronger, and smarter.
Okay, so I just wanted to show a little bit of that because Cosmic Kids Yoga is a really great YouTube channel for anyone that's just sort of looking for something different, looking for something to utilize, looking for something for their children to sort of just sit down with. And it doesn't mean that you have to use that channel, but that's the channel I use with my children. And it's most effective because they do break down vocabulary. They give you a lot of different situations where you are just sitting with something and realizing that you have felt that way before. And as an adult, I can still relate to these things. I also find it interesting that when they are doing the breathing exercises, you can see the physical differences that children feel afterwards. And I really think that's important as well. I do want to also talk about the tapping solution. I introduced it last time with anxiety. Sometimes anger comes from anxiety, so it can be helpful. Something that I really appreciated when I was going through sorts of things that would be different to introduce to parents and people that are working with children, is that the tapping solution is a YouTube channel, but it's also a practice that comes up a lot, and it can be used as a form of therapy, and it is shown to have better results than just regular CBD therapy. CBD is cognitive-based therapy, it can help a lot of the time when you're going through that, right? And because it's a different kind of therapy, it also practices self-soothing. And self-soothing is really important for children to understand because without it, they really feel helpless. The thing about children is that there may be times where they haven't gone through something before, and we kind of forget that we forget that this may be their first time feeling this type of anger. This may be their first time going through something that is really scary to feel. So I think that while we kind of explore that as well, we can really look into the tapping solution to at least give us another tool in our toolkit. I also do want to say they use the tapping solution in a lot of different studies. And I do have a study that is sourced at the end of the presentation if you want to look at it. But basically, they used it in a lot of inner city schools, and they did see a lot of reduction in violence in classrooms and outside of school because they started the day with tapping solution and they ended the day with tapping solution. So I will show you what it is, and we will go from there. Here we go. Okay.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the... Before we begin tapping, it is important to think about how you are feeling now. This helps you to understand your feelings and also notice the improvement once you've spent some time tapping. When we tap, we always think about how we are feeling on a scale of 0 to 10. A 10 would be that you are really mad or really upset, the strongest emotion. A 0 would mean that you feel calm and you've solved what was bothering you. The scale has a range of numbers, so you may be feeling really worried and you feel like an 8 out of 10. Or maybe you are worried about something, but you are still able to concentrate in school, so you feel like a 5 out of 10. You can also use your hands to measure how much. Your hands far apart would be that you feel strong emotions. You're really upset or really nervous. Closer together would be that you have those feelings, but they aren't bothering you as much. closed hands together would mean that you've solved your problem. Are you ready to tap along with me? It's easy. Just copy the moves that I do. You can tap using any hand and any side of the body, or both. First, take a deep breath in and let it out. We start with the side of the hand, called the karate chop point. It's easy to remember because it's just like a karate chop. Yeah. Next is the eyebrow point. We can remember it by calling this the hairy eyebrow point. I pretend that I have eyebrows so big that birds can land on them and sing songs to make me feel better. Then there's the side of the eye point, which I remember by calling it the super eagle eye point. When I tap here, I pretend I have super eagle eyes that let me see things in a different way. Next is the under eye point, or the lion cry point. This reminds me that even if you're strong like a lion, it is okay to cry and let feelings out. Then there's the under the nose point, the dragon fire point. I breathe out my bad feelings just like a dragon breathes fire out of its nose. Next is the chin point, or the wolf's chin point. When I tap here, I'm like a wolf howling away the feelings that are bothering me. Then comes the collarbone, which I think of as the gorilla thumb point. When I tap here, it's like I'm a big, proud gorilla beating on my chest. Next is the underarm point. I like to call this the bear hug point, because when I tap here, I think about giving myself a lot of love with a bear hug. The last tapping point is the top of the head point. I call this the monkey point. This one's a silly one that makes me feel like a monkey, and then I laugh. Those are all of the tapping points. While we tap, we also talk at the same time. This helps us remember what is bothering us.
So I think that the tapping solution could be something that's a YouTube channel that you can utilize. It is still very effective and it helps a lot. And I think it gives children another self-soothing technique that they may not have had otherwise, and it gives them control on how they feel. I do have an anger management video, but I will not be playing that just because it sort of does repeat a lot of the same things I've been saying, but it is also another option, and the link is there in case anyone wants to use it. So what do you do when you mess up? And what I mean by that is, did you freeze up when they were having a tantrum? Did you just not do anything? Did you give consequences for the anger and not the behavior? Here's what experts say about that. I will be talking about that soon. Was the consequence overly harsh? And there needs to be a cooling down period. So stomping versus swearing. This is something I use a lot with children. Stomping is a physical form of anger expression. Now, when you are stomping, you're just very angry and you're just like, oh, I'm so upset. I just need to get this out. Stomping does not mean they are destroying property or hurting anyone or anything. If they are stomping, that is physical and non-threatening. If they swear at you, then that should be better grounds for a consequence, because it is something that hurts somebody else. It is something that could potentially hurt somebody else. Because they tried to hurt you and did not express their anger effectively, that is grounds for a consequence. Now, consequences can be varying. They can mean a lot of different things. And I also do have a study here that you can click on and sort of see what that means. What's the difference between swearing and stomping, and what is a physical punishment versus a non-physical punishment, all those sorts of things. I also have that there for you if you would like that link as well. Was the consequence overly harsh? Now, I actually have something that's really interesting where we sort of talk about consequences and how they need to be natural. And natural meaning that when you are having a consequence, you don't have something that if they decide to punch a hole in the wall and you punish them for 3 months, without giving them reasons, without giving them explanation, it can really not give them a time frame. Children love time frames, and it really does help them work effectively. So if you give them 3 months and nothing else, and if they don't understand exactly why they're getting punished or getting a consequence, then that isn't necessarily helpful for their development. If they punch a hole in the wall and you say, you know what, you need to patch up this hole in the wall. We were also grounded for a week. No phone, no cell phone, no computer, no electronics, and you can't go with your friends. You have to come back from school every day. That is more of a natural consequence than giving them 3 months without them understanding exactly what they did wrong. I do have a story. I have a brother who has three children, and one of them is a 16-year-old boy, and obviously he gets into different things. And one of them was that he had done something, and while he had done it, my brother gave him 4 months of grounding, and 4 months of grounding means all the consequences I had stated before. And at one point, around the second and a half month, he had realized that they both forgot he was supposed to be grounded. And that doesn't necessarily give a good impression of what consequence means to children, because it's not effective, it doesn't have follow-up, and it doesn't have follow-through. And when we don't have that, then children don't understand what consequence actually means, and they're not able to express their anger effectively because they don't know what is a good thing and what is a bad thing if the consequence doesn't match the action. And also there needs to be a cooling down period. And what I mean by that is if you are fighting with a spouse, you always decide to say, you know what? I love you. I appreciate you. I'm upset with you. So we are going to separate. We are going to understand our own feelings and then come back together. And it sort of gives that cooling down period where you're saying, I respect our relationship enough for me to walk away before I do or say something that is very upsetting. And when you do this, you see that person as rational. And when you decide not to give your children a cooling down period, you are weirdly saying they are irrational, that they are not rational enough for you to walk away from in order to understand them. And children can be irrational at many given points, but at the same time, they also have a lot of qualities that they understand what cooling down means. They understand that they need to walk away. Children are people too, and they get upset, and they can be reasonable and they can be reasoned with. So the cooling down period can be effective and important for children to understand. Now I'm going to be talking about here's what we teach them in LST, and this is help in life skills training specifically. And here's what we use to sort of talk about what can be given and what can be used in their cooling down period or in their toolkit specifically. So we always teach them about spotting the signs of anger, elevated heart rate, tense muscles, stomach churning, balling fists. All of those things can be expressions of anger. Encouraging regular active play and exercise, meaning my nieces love to do soccer. They play soccer all the time. They sometimes play soccer in the house, which has its own set of interesting concepts, but it is what it is. Encouraging regular play can really help them with, just getting any sort of natural aggression out. When the anger feels too much, what resources are at their disposal? Who are the people they can talk to? Who are the people that they can understand, that can understand them? They can talk to a friend. Sometimes if their friend, you have to be careful with their friends depending on whether or not they can express their anger effectively to this person. This person may not be someone that helps alleviate their anger, so understanding those things as well. If they're at school, can they talk to the counselor? If they're at home, can they talk to you? If they're angry with you, who else can they talk to? So understanding that there are steps and there are resources at their disposal. Resources also meaning that they can go onto YouTube in order to calm down, that they can, play an instrument, listen to music, something. Also, we have the warning light. This is something that we also help them with practicing. So you're picturing a light in your head. Imagine that it flashes a warning when you need to stop and think before acting or speaking. So if you're about to say something that is really rude, if you're about to do something that really hurts someone else, just for a second, just decide to stop. Right before you say it, just decide to stop. And remember to check your light, knowing you're in a situation that is making you angry. So this is usually a stoplight that we give them. Green means you're good to go, you're in a good mood. Yellow means proceed with caution, meaning you may not be feeling great. And red means I am angry. Now, when it reaches red, this is when we encourage them to count to 10. And this is another method we use. Counting to 10, meaning just giving 10 seconds for you to sit in that feeling before you act on your impulse can really help with decision making, can really help with preserving relationships, and can really help with this person or this individual understanding that their actions do have consequences. So it gives them a second to reflect, just enough for them to be like, all right, this is enough for me. We also have self-statements when counting doesn't seem to work. And these can be sometimes just telling yourself you're not angry, or you decide not to be angry can keep you calm. And here are some examples of effective self-statements. This is not worth fighting for. I can resolve this without fighting. I can handle this. I can stay calm. I can control my actions. I am in control of my emotions. Now, when you do self-statements, even if you're not believing them, it just gives you a second to stop and pause without saying something or doing something that requires anger, a physical anger. We also do reframing, and reframing means to take a situation and to look at it in a different lens. So, is this worth getting angry at? Am I sure this person is really out to hurt or insult me? Is there another way to get what I want? Now, when they do that, they are basically sitting down with themselves and trying to get control of a situation they may feel not in control of. And most of the time, anger comes from a place of not feeling in control, and you don't have control of something, so you get angry about it. So if you give them a reframe in order for them to understand what that means, then they are pausing for a second to realize that this may actually work, that this may be something that can be very helpful for them to express their anger. I'll be moving on. So there are some things that we can say and do when we are addressing our children that may not be very effective in the grand scheme. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Live on Purpose. And it is also another good resource. This person is a a child psychiatrist, and does have a lot of resources, also has a lot of books. He does seminars, he does a lot of different things. And basically, he's someone that can sort of help you understand your child in a different way. And he does go through a lot of things in this video. It's a 20-minute long video, but I did put it in there just so you understood. And the channel is called Live on Purpose. And there are a lot of different parts to the channel, but they have different playlists for you to go through. And it is a really good resource for people that may just want a different perspective and practical advice on how to implement certain things. In this video in particular, he talks about things not to say to your child. And one of them is, you're so frustrating. You're just acting out. What's wrong with you? If they have something that they've done wrong, adding on to the consequences and making more punishments. You're just like blank when you get mad. This is especially damaging when you have divorced parents. So if you say, you're just like your dad when you get mad, or you're just like your mom when you get mad, that inherently creates a wedge between that child and that parent. That automatically creates a wedge between whoever that child is and whoever that example of a person was. And that's not fair, and it's not healthy for a child to make those kinds of associations. Another one that I tend to hear a lot is, it's not that serious. Sometimes for children, it is that serious, because some things we don't understand, and some things that I had to learn while living with my nieces was that children don't go through things the same way we do. They don't necessarily have the situations to understand that things are going to be okay. And when we do say those things, it sort of lets them know that they can't come to you with things because they're going to feel devalued. They're going to feel as if they can't come to you because you won't listen to them effectively. Another one is, get over it, calm down. When I was your age, I used to hear that a lot as a child. When I was your age, I walked 3 miles in the snow to get to my class. And, it's things like that where children don't have that kind of concept. They realize that sometimes people do have different experiences, but when it comes from a parent, it doesn't feel very genuine, because when people use that situation or that particular story, they're using it to discredit their child's anger. They're using it to discredit their child's feelings. And if it's in another context, it can be truly important to have those kinds of conversations for children to know how to be grateful. But in this given situation, it doesn't add to the formativeness of this child's feelings. And their minds and experiences are smaller. So that is something to keep in mind when we are talking about children. So what can I say to them during their outburst? I do have another website here. It says 13 helpful phrases to calm angry children. So before the outburst happens, this can be one thing. Model appropriate responses to anger. You are safe. How about we start over? I will be here when you are ready. And sometimes apologizing to them if you did say something and explaining it in a way that helps them understand you're not angry at them. These are just some examples of what would be useful along with any other resources. But when you are apologizing to them, maybe saying, I had big feelings about something that had nothing to do with you. It must have been scary when I was yelling like that. I'm sorry, and I will do better in the future. And sometimes children need an I'm sorry to understand that you are serious about what you're saying. And children deserve I'm sorry when some things like this happen, because sometimes they really don't know how they're feeling. And when we add to the situation, it doesn't help them understand their own feelings. And I find these some of these phrases very helpful. I will click on it just for a second, just so we understand what it is. So we have here, I love you. I see that you're upset. It's okay to be angry is also another good one. And you can also say, I wonder if you need to eat something. I wonder if this is about something else. And then say, I am going to, and then say your action. So I am going to wait out in the hall. I am going to let you have this moment. I am going to walk away and come back when you feel you are ready. Would you like to try giving them alternatives, helping them self-regulate a little bit more? Can we start over? I'm sure we can find a solution. And if they do something wrong, saying it's not okay to hit me. It's not okay to yell at me. It's not okay for you to do this, but also doing it in a way that sets limits and saying, I do love you. But that also means that we're going to have boundaries, because these boundaries are really important for our relationship. You are safe. And also reminding them, I remember the last time we tried, and I will be here when you are ready, which is also another good one. So there are a lot of different ways that we can use this, right? And I feel that this particular one is just made by a blog, but it's also something that I feel doesn't have a lot of scientific accreditation to it, but it can help with people who are just looking for things that they can implement that are easy. And that is pretty much it. I do want to open the floor up for any questions, but I don't think anybody, I've checked the chat and I don't see any questions. I do end with quotes every single time I am doing something, just because I feel sometimes quotes can get through in a different way. Do not teach your children never to be angry. Teach them how to be angry. And I feel this on a very visceral level, because doing things with anger doesn't mean you're doing things with negativity. Doing things with anger can mean that you are exploring ways of life and you're motivated by injustice. You're motivated by what happened to you. You're motivated by trying to be better. And life will make them angry, but I think it's in their best interest to know how to not be overly positive. Toxic positivity will only have you feeling one type of emotion, and happy is good. It's a great emotion, but it's only one of many emotions that humans are allowed to feel. And if they learn how to get past the toxic positivity that some people have, saying it's okay, just get up by your bootstraps. Well, that's important to know, but sometimes you just have to sit on the ground and cry for a little while. Sometimes you just have to sit on the ground and figure out how to get through life today. And that's okay. And when they are learning how to express these different emotions, they learn how to not suppress the parts that also need expressing. If they do it in a healthy way, then they have accomplished a great deal to prepare for their future. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. And if there's anything you would like to know or anything you would like to have as a resource, please let me know. My email also is rdelpino@mercercouncil.org if you have any questions. I don't think we do. And thank you for being here.